My question, Mr Speaker, is to the Minister for Education. Minister, yesterday you were out trumpeting the next stage of your back-to-school plan. Last week you reported 1,703 school children were COVID positive. Some 1,300 of these are in primary school and are wholly unprotected. They've been exposed to the risks of potentially serious and disabling long COVID. Nearly 70 teachers were also off work, COVID positive or a close contact. Despite this, your dystopian plan claims it's been a successful start to the term. Not a single measure in your forward planning is different to the hopelessly inadequate protective measures you've used so far to keep our children safe. There's no plan to expand ventilation upgrades and no plan for outdoor learning areas in winter. How are you going to manage these fresh air spaces when it's freezing cold and driving rain? Minister, will you commit to releasing daily figures of the number of COVID cases in primary and high schools and to releasing a real plan for Term 2 that provides for safe air spaces in classrooms and protection for children?
Honourable Minister for Education.
Yeah.
So successful, it seems.
I wonder what a disaster would look like.
Order.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and I thank Dr Woodruff for her questions, the many questions embedded in her preamble speech. And I can update the House on the latest figures I have for Tasmanian government schools as at Friday the 4th of March, where of our 60,000 students in Tasmanian government schools, less than 3%, 1,747, are known as COVID cases. Pleasingly, well over two-thirds of those students are actively engaged in learning from home through our virtual learning centre and supported by our staff. Of our staff, less than 1% of teachers in our schools are home, away from the classroom with COVID, and as we've said before, we have over 1,700 on a reserve list, people ready to step up as they're needed into those roles to ensure that we can continue providing education face-to-face in our schools, in safe places in our schools for our young people. Now, as the Premier has outlined, we continue to work and have since day one very closely with public health, alongside public health, and when we come to make announcements like the one I did yesterday at Bowen Road Primary School, I have public health experts alongside me, and we invite the media to ask them questions, and they provide answers directly to Tasmanians through the media. We're not hiding them, we're not changing their words, we're not keeping them, I think, as you said, in a cage. They are directly informing our decisions, our tactical steps, and in this case, and in the case of my announcement yesterday, our COVID-safe schools operational plan, Mr Speaker. Now, as we know, sadly, COVID is moving through our community. There is transmission of COVID in our community, Mr Speaker. Nobody likes that. We didn't ask for it. Our job is to deal with it.
It's your job to do something.
Our children live in the community. They come to school. Our job is to make our schools as safe as we possibly can, and our public health officials consistently advise that schools and the way we have them set up are the safest place for our kids to be.
What are you going to do about outdoor learning?
In a community where there is community transmission of COVID, we are providing a place for those children to come where we guarantee that all of the adults that they come in contact with are vaccinated, where there are rapid antigen tests available for every school that are replenished as they are used, that there is an unlimited supply to them of testing to ensure that they can respond to the onset of symptoms, they can determine if they have a positive case, they can take action to keep their kids at home and out of the school, and everybody is relying on everybody doing the right thing with that, and it's working. There are face masks requirements for all adults and all students over 12 years of age in our schools. There are strict hygiene practices and protocols for COVID-safe behaviour in our schools, including the provision of additional hand soaps, sanitisers and other products that assist to keep them safe. There is frequent cleaning regimes in place, and I want to shout out in particular to the cleaning staff in our schools across the state who have stepped up and up to take on additional cleaning duties to ensure that our schools are meeting the requirements set down by public health for keeping them safe spaces. Ventilation. Natural airflow is being maximised across our schools. Air purifiers, 4,500 of them, Mr Speaker, have been deployed to our schools. The vast majority, well over 93%, I believe the figure was from yesterday, of perimeter windows in our perimeter classrooms are fully operative. And each school site has been provided with a carbon dioxide monitor, supporting guidelines and advice from occupational physicians on how to use them, so that we can continue to measure the adequacy of airflow and ventilation in our learning spaces. We are investing actively in more outdoor learning spaces for our children. We are ensuring physical distancing, particularly for our adults. We are managing our sites' entries and exits, and we are minimising mixing of groups of students, for example, in our public schools, by not resuming whole school assemblies, but dealing with the sharing of information and the celebration of achievements of our students through other means. We are doing everything we can, and we are following all guidance that we are given by public health to make our schools the safest places they can be. And I want to, in finishing, Mr Speaker, thank again all of the teachers, the principals, the staff of our schools, the parents and the students in our schools for following the guidelines, the guidance, the rules that we've set down to keep our schools as safe as they can possibly be. And it is a great relief to see the curve of increases of cases in our schools flattening off, as we expected it to at week 5, and we look forward to that plateauing continuing. And as public health has previously indicated, they expect those case numbers in our schools to be tapering off from this high point. Thank you.
Mr Speaker.